Hey guys, thanks so much for stopping by. My name's Austin. Today we're taking a look at the Marvel Legends Gamerverse Spider-Man 2 Venom. This is a giant figure. I don't think I even really realized just how giant he was going to be when I saw the promo images. When you get him in hand, he's absolutely huge. I mean, he's like bigger than big figs, bigger than mega figs. He's crazy. Um, but yeah, overall, a lot to like about this figure. A few things to pay attention to. As usual, we're going to take a look at all of it and see if it's something that's worth your money. First off, before we get into the fun stuff, we'll take a look at the packaging. Really good packaging on the Gamerverse series. I like this coloring. I don't really pick up much Gamerverse, so I think this is the standard coloring. It may be specific to Spider-Man 2, but either way, it looks good. You have the logo in the back for the Insomniac Spider-Man. On the side, you got the name of the character and a production still, I guess you'd call it. It's not concept art. It was kind of used as a promotional image for the game, despite the fact that you don't really ever get to fight Venom in this specific context. But yeah, the back is honestly, the back is really cool just because of the scale of the box. It allows for a much bigger canvas and they use it to its fullest potential. I mean, you don't have any cross sell, you don't really have any of the typical stuff you see on a action figure box because all of the legal information is put down at the very bottom and they really focus in on this artwork, which is great art. I mean, overall, I love the design of this Venom. Would have been cool to have maybe a few different images of the character. They use the same across the board, and then you have the Gamerverse logo on top. But that's enough about the box. Let's get into the aesthetics. For aesthetics on this figure, I'm actually having a hard time keeping him in frame with my camera setup. Hopefully, it still allows you to see the full figure. When I come up close, like here, I have to kind of bend him to get out of the way. I think the aesthetics are amazing. To me, this looks perfectly in line with what you see in the game. I mean, he is big and bulky. There's texture all over him. I will say, if you notice that, I did that to him. Unfortunately, I was trying to use a flight stand and put it in there. I should have been paying better attention, but also you might consider the fact that the paint might be a little bit thinner than it should be. The paint also isn't perfectly clean. There's a little bit of overspray there, and there's some on the back here. It's like super clean in most instances, but you can see it kind of start to blur. Honestly, on the back, it's actually really good. It's not gonna bother me, mostly because in the game it's a very like viscous moving liquid suit, so it doesn't really seem that out of bounds for the. I mean, I think the symbiote symbol even kind of moved occasionally in the game. So I don't know. That again, that might be cope, but big thing for me is the texture on this guy. I mean, he's very glossy. To me, it doesn't come across as like a plasticky kind of gloss, probably because of the fact that he was so shiny in the game. The head sculpt is great. The paint job on the head sculpt is great. I mean, I would say that if we get in close there, they did a great job of picking out the teeth. It's they're not clean white; they're kind of a little bit yellowy, which makes sense for Venom. And yeah, I mean the red is very clean, goes up to the jaw and stops right there. It's aesthetics on this are, in my opinion, perfect. I've seen some people say that his dimensions are a little bit off. Let me zoom out so that you can actually see the figure. I can kind of see what they're saying. To me, I'm never going to really have him just standing straight up and down. I'm going to put him in more of a crouching pose, and to me, he looks great crouching because of the size of everything. I mean, his chest is probably a little bit out of proportion with the rest of him, but I don't know. I think that's a little bit nitpicky. I'm really happy with the aesthetics on this guy. So next, let's go ahead and get into the accessories. For accessories, we have the claws that come on the figure. I'm not really sure if you can count these as accessories, but I kind of wanted to talk about them just for a little bit because it's nice that you have these variations. This hand is perfect for grabbing a head. and this hand is perfect for grabbing a torso, but also on their own, they just look very expressive. So great clawed hands, but then if you want, you can also switch them out for these fist hands. These are, pretty much exactly the same, just mirrored, but that's fine. They're fists. They look good. You can still see the claw on the thumb, which is just a really great touch. I mean, it's to be expected for a Venom character, but yeah, I really like these. Obviously, there's no paint. This Venom didn't have those rectangular marks on the back of his hands, which that's fine. Then we have this big jowly tonguey monster face. To me, this is Venom. I know a lot of people don't really like the big long tongue, but growing up with Mark Bagley and Eric Larson artwork, Mark Bagley mostly, but this to me is Venom. This very monstrous, larger than life, huge guy, and this looks great to me. I mean, I loved the Insomniac version of Venom from the very start, so I'm just glad that they did such a good job capturing it. The gloss, again, works really well on the tongue. If you look there on the inside, you can even see that kind of like texture on the roof of his mouth. I mean, to me, for Hasbro, this is above and beyond. I mean, I was shocked to get this figure out. I think I paid, it was $45. I've seen him listed for that much. I pre-ordered it, and I honestly didn't pay too much attention to how much I paid because I was so excited about it. I think this is absolutely worth it for what you get. I don't know why I'm talking like that's the end of it. You get this. This is kind of a weird addition, but overall, I'd say I like it. You can snake it onto the tongue and kind of press it in underneath the teeth. I think this is really cool because it just kind of, I don't know, it's not the same as like a removable tongue that we've seen on like the Marvel Select Venom, but it does add a little bit of difference. I know I've seen some people say that there's no real value in this, but to me, it just kind of adds something different. It gives more of the idea that he's maybe opening up his mouth rather than just screaming. You can kind of do both, but something to note: it is a harder kind of plastic. It's not a very the tip is a soft plastic, but you might have to just be careful, make sure that nothing breaks on the tongue. Then the last accessory you get is arguably my favorite. I'm not really sure. I love everything that this figure comes with. This is a swappable hand, I guess, that you just pop out the hand and then add that on. It's got a little peg on the end. And this is really cool. This is very soft plastic. It bends and contorts around figures perfectly. You can use it. It's a little bit soft to where holding a figure up in the air, the joints kind of don't quite have the strength needed for a full Marvel Legends, 6-inch figure. But, oh man, the effect is so cool, especially for like photography. If you just get into a pose for just long enough for it to hold it and get a picture, it just looks so great. And also you don't even have to use it for holding it. It just, I love it. I think it looks great. It's a different finish, which is unfortunate. I think I would have preferred it to be glossy, but I also understand that it's a different type of material, so I'm not too bothered by that. But you can kind of tell, especially under light, the gloss is definitely there on the figure more than it is on the tendrils, but I don't really personally think that's that noticeable. So all in all, the accessories you get, it's not as much as you might hope from a regular Marvel Legend, but I think for the size and for the scale of these accessories, I really like them, and the paintwork on the heads are very solid. So that's all for accessories. Now we'll take a look at the articulation. The articulation on the Gamerverse Venom is pretty standard for what we have come to expect from Marvel Legends. It's a ball joint at the top of the head, which allows for a pretty good amount of range. The traps do kind of get in the way with the way that the head is shaped. Kind of prevents him from looking back too far, which I will say is kind of unfortunate, but it's really not that big of a deal. Heads are super easy to pop off. It's a very soft plastic for the heads. But I like this. I think that it allows for a lot of range. I think the ball joint is about the same size as any other Marvel Legends ball joint, or head ball joint. But because of the size of the head, you kind of get a little bit more range out of it, the way that you would hope from a ball joint. So that's it for the head. Then you have this reverse ab crunch with the diaphragm. I don't really love this style of articulation. I know that it kind of arguably prevents breakages in the sculpt. They did a good job of extending the spider emblem on both sides. Better job on the back, I'd say, because it was a little bit easier to do. But it's tough to get him in camera. Let me zoom out again. He crunches forward with just the diaphragm joint, about that far. That's neutral. Goes really far back. Then when you engage the diaphragm, he can really get a limbo going, which is good. Engage it forward. The forward kind of pops and then juts back, which is unfortunate. He could crouch more, but for some reason he doesn't, which it's not the end of the world, but he has butterfly joints. They don't really do enough, in my opinion. You can kind of get them to if you finagle the arm, but they're really more for back than they are for forward. The forward is only going to get you a little bit, but the back does get a little better. It does a good job of continuing the sculpt. It looks at its best like that, but it doesn't look too bad either or. But that works. The shoulder joint goes up really good. Well, I say really good. I mean, that's just a little bit over 90, but for Marvel Legends, that's really good. Then we have the bicep swivel, same as to be expected. It's a little bit tight, but honestly, I prefer tight on a figure of this size. I will say, density-wise, he's not overly dense. He definitely feels a little bit hollow at times, which isn't that big of a deal. I don't really mind a lighter figure. I'm kind of figuring when he takes a shelf dive, it'll be less disastrous for him, but again, maybe cope. Double jointed elbow, crunches in super well, very tight, really good. I don't think that's too ugly. I mean, obviously it breaks up, but I've never really been too bothered by elbow joints, so that looks really good. Then we have standard Marvel Legends. They just hinge up and down and swivel. Go down to the thighs. We've got kick forward that far before it starts to go out. And actually, there's really no out. It doesn't angle. This is pretty much where it stops. I can do the splits. Pretty could be better. Could be quite a bit better, but it's okay. I'm not really going to be putting my Venom in splits. The butt gets in the way completely. I mean, you can't really go back. You can just go out and kind of angle it back. So not too terrible, kind of to be expected for any Marvel Legend. Thigh cut all the way around. It's a good thigh cut. It's subtle enough that it doesn't really break up the sculpt super bad. So I'm happy with that. Then the knee, double jointed knee, goes up really well. Really like that, especially for such a bulky guy. This is a lot. This is great. I mean, you can get him in a lunging pose really, really well. I will say, the smoothness of the joint is a little bit of an eyesore, but I don't really know what they would have done otherwise with their articulation scheme. Maybe they could have done a whole new scheme of articulation and called it a maximum release, which I don't even know what this would have cost if it was labeled as maximum. But anyways, it's a discussion for maybe later in the video. Then he has boot cut, which is, I mean, I'm not going to complain about boot cut, but I am going to complain about how gummy it is. I mean, we know Marvel Legends have gummy joints. It's been a problem for a while. And it doesn't feel very firm and secure, and I don't love that, especially when you consider how much the legs taper down to this thin point, and then you've got all that weight on such a wobbly piece. Not the best thing in the world. But for the actual ankle, standard, hinge. Then you got the front-facing pin for rocker. And you have toe articulation. I think this is probably the only real criticism I have for the figure. I love this figure so much except for these stupid toe joints. They don't do anything. They look fine, I guess, but they're so loose. He wants to fall forward so bad that you have to finagle him so much to get him into a pose where this isn't a problem. And these are always the problem. It's always falling forward. So you have to just constantly figure out how to get it in a pose where it's mostly putting its weight backwards and then try and make sure that he doesn't fall on his back and all this stuff. But out of everything on the articulation, I'm really happy with it. Like I said, the toe joints are really the only downfall, along with the kind of gumminess of the boot cut. The boot cut doesn't really offend me. It would be nice if it was just tighter. And then the diaphragm that reverse ab crunch. It would be nice to have a deeper bend there when it does it, and it just kind of bounces back is weird. But yeah, articulation on this guy is pretty good. So now we'll go ahead and get into comparisons. For the first set of comparisons, I wanted to do the X tallest Venoms in my collection. These guys now are kind of dwarfed by this release, which really kind of goes to show how big it is. This is the Marvel Select Venom, and this is the Toy Biz, I think, Spider-Man Classics line, I'm pretty sure. This is a really old release, very funky, but one of my favorites just because of how unique it is. But this was my favorite Venom for the longest time, and it's still definitely up there. It's definitely a great Todd McFarlane Venom, and the size is really cool. You know, I know he's in a 7-inch scale because he's Marvel Select, but he still kind of has that size to him to do kind of a monster Venom look. He comes with a really great grinning head, which puts, in all honesty, puts this head to shame. But you know, different interpretations of the character, so you wouldn't want this very comic booky Todd McFarlane grinning head when you're going for the Insomniac Venom. But yeah, these guys are absolutely dwarfed by this monster of a figure. But next we have the amazing Yamaguchi Reveltech Venom. Incredibly bad figure. He'll probably fall while I'm recording this. And then the Marvel Legends Venom. I have no idea what wave this was from. This is a really old Venom. It's pretty good. I don't know. The body buck is kind of weird, but he's the version of Venom that was used the most in the Marvel Legends line until the movie Venom kind of changed the overall sculpt, and that, you know, that King in Black 2-pack kind of changed the way that they've been doing Venom more recently. I really like the newer releases of the Marvel Legends Venoms. I hadn't really picked one up, and I'm glad I waited because this is probably going to be the only Venom in my display because of how incredibly huge he is. I just don't really have the real estate for any more. Again, this shows the difference in scope on these figures, but to each their own. Some people definitely prefer the more human size Venom. Here's the Marvel Legends Gamerverse Miles Morales and the Renew Your Vows Spider-Man with a third-party head sculpt for the Insomniac version. I never picked up a Gamerverse Spider-Man. They didn't really do what I wanted them to do, but as far as I'm aware, the Spider-Man 2 Gamerverse Peter is pretty much complete reuse, just a total repaint of the Renew Your Vows body, despite the fact that it's a completely different body. I mean, this is like a much more bulky Spider-Man than I think he really was in the video game, and when you put him next to this very realistic version, it's not a perfect fit. But anyways, still hoping for a better rendition of the character, maybe from Mayfex. The Figuarts was pretty horrible, so don't really have that one. But all in all, these guys look great together, and this is just a pretty classic Spider-Man, just to show how different in scale these guys are. I mean, it's accurate, but it's crazy. Here's a Mayfex comparison: the classic 185 Spider-Man, and then the Secret Wars Anniversary Black Suit Spider-Man, just to give you an idea of what it looks like with the Amazing Fantasy body buck, as well as this just looks like Web of Shadows to me. It makes me really wish that we got some kind of Web of Shadows version of this with maybe a recolor. I might even just repaint it myself if I ever get the boldness to, but really love those two together. I think they're totally, I mean, I love that game, and I think that this is a perfect rendition of even that version of Venom. He's very reminiscent of the Web of Shadows Venom. That's all I've got for comparisons, so now we'll go ahead and jump into the conclusion. I had to get rid of the turntable for this review. This figure's just too big and bulky for it. I guess if I ever start reviewing Hot Toys, I'm going to have a problem. When all is said and done on this figure, I think this is a Marvel Legend that, in my opinion, is absolutely worth picking up. Unless you're just not a fan of the Monster Venom look, it's so cool. It's definitely worth the money. I think this justifies itself so much more than any other figure that Marvel Legends has put out. Definitely not excluding the Maximum series releases. I did cave and pick up the Maximum series Spider-Man, and I'll have a review for that next week. I'm overall pretty happy with it, but I'm way happier with this. It's cheaper, and it's got more to it, Sure, it's got less accessories, but it's, in my opinion, better done accessories, more useful accessories. I love the look of it. I love the size of it. It does a great job of looking like the video game counterpart. He's bigger than the Maximum Series Hulk that's selling for like $65 right now. Yeah, if this is the kind of Venom you're looking for, pick him up. Even if you didn't play the video game, it's a great Monster Venom, especially when you consider how incredibly expensive the Build-A-Figure version of Monster Venom is. So I've been kind of reviewing figures using a ranking system that I've been trying to implement. It goes first grade, high grade, real grade, master grade, perfect grade. For this one, and I'm saying this as a Marvel Legends figure, I want to give it perfect grade, but I think I'm just gonna go master. I I think maybe if it had, I don't know, if it could have included some more accessories or maybe a bit more intuitive articulation. You know, I mean, he's a very bulky figure, but there may have been some more they could have done to get it over the line into perfect. The toe joints really do hold it back. It's hard to get him to stand up correctly, but yeah, it definitely earns the master grade seal of approval. It's worth picking up if you're interested in this character or if you collect Marvel Legends at all, really. I mean, it's a step in the right direction, and I hope that Hasbro takes notes, because this is exactly what I want out of this line. But yeah, that's all I've got for you guys, and I hope you have a good one.